Hi, my name is Liz Ryder, and I'm working with the group that is covering Chapter 15 for our review, which is Employee Rights and Responsibilities. It's a very important part of the HR management. HR professionals are required to protect employee rights, ensure employees and the employer are following government rules and regulations, in addition to helping the company succeed. For rights and responsibilities, rights are the powers, privileges, or interests derived from law, nature, or tradition. Responsibilities are obligations to perform certain tasks and duties. Example of rights: contractual rights, a contract between an employer and an employee that spells out rights and obligations for both sides. An example: employment contracts, non-compete agreements, non-piracy agreements, non-solicitation agreements, intellectual property and trade secrets rules, and implied contracts. Rights affecting the employment relationship. Just cause is reasonable justification for taking employment-related action. Due process, which is also about fairness, occurs when an employer is determining if there has been employee wrongdoing and uses a fair process to give an employee a chance to explain and defend his or her actions. Organizational justice is the employer's perception of fairness of decisions and resource allocations in an organization. Employment at will is a common law doctrine that states that employers have the right to hire, fire, demote, or promote whomever they choose unless there is a law or contract to the contrary, and employees may quit at any time with or without notice. Some court exceptions include public policy exception, implied contract exception, and good faith and fair dealing exception. Some liabilities with employment at will include wrongful discharge, which is a termination of an individual's employment for reasons that are illegal or improper. Constructive discharge, the process of deliberately making conditions intolerable to get an employee to quit. Some dispute resolution methods are arbitration, peer review panels, ombuds, and mediation. Managing individual employee and employer rights issues. The Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability, HIPAA, have set regulations to protect the privacy of employee medical records, both paper and electronic files. The Data Protection Act requires employers to keep personnel records up to date and kept only the details that are needed. Employees' free speech rights. The U.S. Constitution protects our right to free speech, but is not restricted in the workplace. There are 3 situations that may restrict those rights: employee advocacy of controversial views, whistleblowing and employee protection, technology and employer-employee issues, such as terminating an employee for complaining about a job on social media. Employee rights and personal behavior issues. Having a strong written policy lets the employee know expectations and provides the employer with avenues of addressing noncompliance in instances of the following: counterproductive behaviors such as bullying, substance abuse, stealing, and sabotage, dress and appearance limitations, weapons in the workplace, off-duty behavior. Balancing employer security and employee rights. Ways employers ensure employees are performing properly in a safe work environment. Workplace monitoring, conducting work-related investigations, either internal or external, drug testing. Human resource policies, procedures, and rules. Coordination and shared responsibility between the HR unit and the operating managers are necessary for HR policies, procedures, and rules to be effective. A very important part is having a concise employee handbook that explains the company's policies, procedures, and employee benefits. Employee discipline. Discipline, whether positive or progressive, is a process of corrective action used to enforce organizational rules. It is important that issues are handled properly, promptly, fairly, and within HR guidelines. The final disciplinary step is termination. It's a very serious matter and can cause serious litigation costs if the proper process is not followed carefully. So once again, having a concise employee handbook, that outlines the rules and regulations as well as proper training of supervisors and managers is a very extremely important part of the HR process.